Congresswoman Jayapal thought this would land.
It's the first time Republicans have wanted to import foreigners to talk about any issue.
During a House hearing on how European censorship could impact the United States, Jayapal insulted key witnesses and tried shifting attention away from the matter, until Andy Biggs stepped in and debunked her entire narrative.
But so much of what we've heard today is inaccurate, false, and wrong. Conviction and passion does not make you correct. Sometimes it just makes you crazy.
And today, we're covering it all. By the way, we just launched this channel, and we'll focus solely on debates. So hit that subscribe button, and let's jump right into it.
This committee is spending no time at all on actually looking at that. It's the first time Republicans have wanted to import foreigners to talk about any issue. But let me just be clear that right now we have a situation where Trump's ICE and Border Patrol agents are routinely using excessive force, killing 2 U.S. citizens, using chemical weapons, physically assaulting and threatening people, directly attacking people who are exercising their free speech rights hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And with respect to Mr. Price and Mr. Issa, who seem to suggest that the courts can resolve everything, there is no court order that can bring back people from the dead after they've been shot. So be very careful when you come here at the request of my Republican colleagues to testify on the abuses of First Amendment rights. When we have this happening right here in this country, do not let yourselves be used.
Like I mentioned, this hearing was meant to focus on how censorship across Europe could affect American businesses. And it's not something theoretical, as several European countries, along with the EU itself, have already taken action against platforms like X. Yet, instead of addressing that issue, Jayapal chose to insult the witnesses, even calling them imported, just to push her anti-ICE narrative. Mind you, one of the witnesses was Dr. Päivi Räsänen, a member of the Finnish parliament. This is the same Jayapal who criticized Trump last year after the tense Oval Office meeting with Zelensky, calling it a shameful day in American history. You seriously can't make this stuff up. But Andy Biggs came prepared. And when he pressed one of the Democrats' own witnesses, he exposed just how weak Jayapal's argument actually was.
I mean, these are yes or no. You don't need to.
Sure.
If you filibuster, which sometimes people like to do, we'll never get through this. But I'm going to make sure we get through it no matter how much over time I go, just like the Democrats are. People can even video police actions in public spaces, right? Courts have held that.
Yes.
Multiple courts, right?
Yes.
But there is a caveat to that right, isn't there? There's a list of constraints even there, right? So, for instance, you cannot videotape police activity if there's a reasonable expectation of privacy by anyone there, right? That's what the courts say?
I'm not following that. You have a right to videotape law enforcement when law enforcement is conducting its activity in public spaces.
In public spaces, right? But if there's a reasonable expectation of privacy, courts have said that you can't go beyond that. They've also said you can't interfere or obstruct police activities, right?
The First Amendment does not protect interference with law enforcement, obstruction.
Yeah, you don't need to repeat everything I say. You can either agree or disagree. That's fine.
Exactly. And those are not the only restrictions. You also cannot trespass into an active crime scene, cross a perimeter set by law enforcement, issue threats, or turn things physical. These kind of limits were part of the reasoning used to prosecute some people after January 6th, including individuals who never actually entered the Capitol building. Similar logic appeared in more recent cases too. For instance, Nick Sorter was arrested in Portland in October of last year under comparable circumstances. Yet, we didn't see a single Democrat make an issue about those arrests. Why? Because it didn't suit their narrative. They only started talking about something once it affected their side. But Biggs didn't stop there, and he played a clip to further prove his point on how some of the protests in Minnesota have turned violent. So let's take a look.
Let's watch a video real quick here of what's going on in Minnesota. This is not peaceful protest. We realize that you were brought here to pontificate the Democrats' deal instead
I was
of
brought
answering
here to
questions.
tell you what's happening on the ground in
here.
Minnesota, and it is happening, and it is being recognized by Republicans and
there's
Democrats.
also-
The time
and law
belongs to the
enforcement
gentleman. The
agents
time
alike.
belongs to the gentleman from Arizona.
Yeah, I'm asking you questions. You answer them. You can agree or disagree, but these are very simple. I think you'll get them even because they're yes or no questions. The individual cannot videotape if they're not if it actually hinders public safety. Isn't that true?
You're not allowed to interfere with law enforcement.
You can't.
You're talking about hypothetical scenarios.
If you are impeding public safety, courts have held you can't get there. Apparently, I can't ask you questions because you're not going to answer truthfully. Here we go.
While it's true that the shootings in Minnesota were wrong and also could have been avoided, it's also important to recognize the political environment surrounding this issue. There is an entire political party backed by a massive media apparatus pushing a message that encourages disrupting ICE operations at every turn. Now, does that mean everything ICE does should be beyond criticism? Absolutely not. But Republicans currently hold only a slim majority in Congress, and Democrats could still work with them on reforms. In fact, several GOP lawmakers have already signaled support for improving how ICE and DHS carry out immigration enforcement. Instead, what we keep hearing are empty statements and talking points with no real effort to change anything on the ground. Biggs took a step further, perfectly summing up what's wrong with the political discourse nowadays, and I think he made some valid points.
If you look at the statute, and I assume that you have, Mr. Mayo, if you look at the statutes here, and the courts have upheld it, something called administrative warrants, where you have a reasonable suspicion to believe somebody's in this country illegally, you are allowed to make the stop, you're allowed to make the arrest, you're allowed to pursue them that way. Reasonable suspicion is the standard under INA Section 236. So when I look at this and I listen to you, and I'm looking at, and I'm sorry you folks have come here, you've seen the real attack is coming from the left on speech rights in this country. And here's the beautiful part about it. Because they have conviction and they have so much passion, they think they're correct. They think that's true. But so much of what we've heard today is inaccurate, false, and wrong. And here's the bottom line. Conviction and passion does not make you correct. Sometimes it just makes you crazy. Yield back.
Exactly. It's undeniable that passion drives political movements, but when it goes too far, things begin to break down. You see, once ideology takes over, common sense gets thrown out the window. Like I said, the Democrats could work towards passing the reforms that they keep talking about. Instead, the focus stays on media appearances and a rhetoric that fuels anger just to energize the base. And the fact that Jayapal tried to frame foreign witnesses discussing censorship in Europe as imported voices a lot about what the real intention here is. It goes to show about how easily real discussions get replaced by talking points when the objective shifts from solving problems to winning headlines.